For today's headlines, senators demand Duque resignation. Pinoys split on vax pace. United Kingdom offers sanctuary to 25,000 Afghans. Metro mayors defer to interagency task force after enhanced community quarantine lapse.
Afraid and panicked and worried, thousands of Afghans mobbed Kabul's Hamid Karzai International Airport in a desperate attempt.
Get to know Miss Universe Philippines candidate Simone Nadine Bornilla. Good morning, I am Venice Bautista, and you are watching Tribune News on Q. Today is August 19, 2021, and here are the latest news of this Thursday morning. Senators demanded that Health Secretary Francisco Duque III resign, a reiteration of their stand last year when the DOH appeared slow in its response to the growing number of COVID-19 cases and the deaths that claimed many of the health workers due to the shortage of badly needed protective equipment. In what could be an admission of having unspent funds while COVID-19 continues to grip the country and its economy, the Department of Health on Wednesday promised to realign untouched money from its 2020 budget to pay the special risk allowance of the healthcare workers. For this, senators demanded that Health Secretary Francisco Duque III resign, a reiteration of their stand last year when the DOH appeared slow in its response to the growing numbers of the COVID-19 cases and the deaths that claimed many of the health workers due to the shortage of badly needed protective equipment. At the motu proprio investigation of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee on the DOH alleged mishandling of 67.32 billion pesos COVID-19 response fund, Secretary Francisco Duque III told senators that he will look into the savings from the 2020 General Appropriations Act, or the GAA, to grant medical frontliners their unreceived benefits. The DOH received 175.8 billion pesos from the 2020 GAA. It is yet to determine how much can be realigned from the unused funds. Gordon said all medical staff in hospitals are at risk and should be included in the SRA. Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon also argued that the law should have been interpreted liberally. Duque was emotional when he faced the House of Representatives on Wednesday to discuss the COA report. The panel launched a motu proprio inquiry into the COA's annual of the DOH on the request of House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco. While 68% of Filipinos said they have easy access to COVID-19 vaccination sites, half of the adult population found the pace of the country's inoculation drive slow, a recent Social Weather Station's poll shows. Conducted from 23rd to 26th of June, the survey said 35% of 1,200 adult respondents believed the government's vaccination program was somewhat slow, and 15% of them said it was too slow. This was more than 6 months since the jab rollout began. Meanwhile, 45% of them said the inoculation efforts were all right. In response, Malacanang acknowledged that much more needs to be done in hastening the pace of its COVID-19 vaccination program. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque assured that they will not rest until we achieve population protection. And to improve vaccination access and pace, the government has been procuring additional COVID-19 vaccines, increasing personnel or vaccinators, and converting barangay health centers and other private-owned establishments as inoculation sites, he added. Those who were mostly in Metro Manila at 57%, followed by Balance Luzon with 55%, Visayas 51%, and Mindanao 33%, according to the SWS. Complaints about the country's slow vaccination process were more prevalent among elementary graduates and those who have higher educational backgrounds, ranging from 49 to 55%, compared to non-elementary graduates at 37%, the SWS said. On the other hand, those who said they were satisfied with the current vaccination pace were more common among non-elementary graduates at 51% than among elementary graduates and above at 43% to 46%. Britain on Tuesday announced a resettlement scheme for Afghans fleeing the Taliban after the return to power, offering an initial 5,000 places in the first year and rising to up to 20,000 in the long term. The announcement that came on the eve of an extraordinary session of Parliament on Wednesday is separate from the relocation of 5,000 former staff and their families, of whom 2,000 already arrived. London said priority would be given to those most at risk, including Afghan women, children, and others forced to flee or facing threats and persecution from the hardliners, offering them a chance to remain in Britain indefinitely. The government said it was working with foreign allies, including in the Five Eyes intelligence partnership with the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand to identify those most at risk, even as Taliban leaders promised an amnesty and vowed not to take revenge. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said, and I quote, "We owe a debt of gratitude to all those who have worked with us to make Afghanistan a better place over the last 20 years. Many of them, particularly women, are now in urgent need of our help," end quote. Home Secretary Priti Patel, whose family led to Britain from Idi Amin Uganda's, and said that Afghan citizens' resettlement scheme will save lives. The Tribune News on Q will be back after these reminders.
Doors opening, millions of paths unfolding, and millions of reasons to keep going. Now's the time to be with the network that gets better every day for you.
We are back on Tribune News on Q. The 17 mayors of Metro Manila will follow the quarantine protocols the Interagency Task Force will enforce in the National Capital Region when the present enhanced community quarantine lapses tomorrow night. However, the local executives have not offered a recommendation to the task force, Benhur Abalos, Metropolitan Manila Development Authority Chair, said. Instead, he said the mayors agreed to further push the vaccination of their constituents as part of the campaign to contain the further spread of COVID-19. They are accounting their available resources for presentation to the IATF, which will be voting today on the quarantine protocol to be adopted in Metro Manila after 20th of August. Based on their records, Abalos said most of those afflicted with COVID-19 have not been vaccinated, accounting for 62% of all cases. The remaining 32% have received either the first dose or have been completely inoculated. He said they are leaving it to the IATF's wisdom whether to extend the ECQ. The MMDA chief said the mayors are carefully balancing the matter since any ECQ extension will require the distribution of cash aids, but the national government might not have the money to finance it. The Metro mayors have agreed to focus their resources on vaccination, testing, and the setting up of isolation facilities, since they are closely monitoring on a daily basis for signs of a surge in the number of cases. The mayors will also utilize granular lockdowns in their respective areas, where those affected will be provided with food and other needs on a daily basis. And now for our field report, here is Vernon Velasco.
Thank you, Denise. 51 cases of violence against media have been successfully prosecuted under the watch of President Rodrigo Duterte. This is according to Joel Egco, Associate Secretary of the Presidential Task Force on Security, on an interview with Daily Tribune over the paper's radio TV show, Gising Na. The bulk of this number are the 31 closed cases of the 2009 Maguindanao massacre, discounting the case of the missing journalist Ronaldo Momay. EDCO said that demographic factors directly numbers, such as in Maguindanao, which is rife with political infighting. They also figure that cases rise every election season were partisan reporting times. So that according to media, the office for the media and media bias through the salary. Moreover, the task force provides real-time protection and response to the complainant. Case in point is Heiner Keane of the Manila Times, whom the task force freed from a death threat after a hearing on his libel case in Quezon City. Meanwhile, 2 weeks ago, a veteran broadcaster stopped the help of the task force due to threats to his life. From 2016, more than 50 complaints have been lodged in the Media Security Office. Most of them, however, according to EDCO, non-work related. This possibly includes the slay of journalist Gwen Salamida on Monday, where, according to EDCO, personal grudge is difficult to discount. This is Vernon Velasco for News.
Thank you, Vernon, for that field report. Meanwhile, can Afghans trust the Taliban? In this special report by the Daily Tribune, please watch. Afraid, in panic, and worried, thousands of Afghans mobbed Kabul's Hamid Karzai International Airport in a desperate attempt to flee. Hundreds of thousands more line up 2 border crossings between Pakistan and Afghanistan to allow humanitarian migration. The Kaman border, which is also a central transit point, will remain open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily, while the southern crossing in Spin Boldak is allowing holders of Pakistan or Pakistani national identity cards safe passage. Afghans were frightened the country will revert to the harsh Islamic law imposed by the Taliban when they ruled the country from 1996 until 2001. It was also a time when women were forced to wear burqa and accompanied by a male relative when they ventured outside. Women are also barred from advancing in education or working outside the home. Music is also banned, thieves lose their hands, and adulterers are stoned to death. However, the Taliban have presented themselves as a more moderate group in recent years and vowed not to exact punishment to collaborators of the past regime. Still, a majority of Afghans are skeptical of the militia. Will there be a return of the Al-Qaeda? U.S. intelligence was quick to warn the return of extremism. The Osama bin Laden-funded Al-Qaeda to regain a haven in Afghanistan, with the Taliban taking back control of the country. But the Taliban have pledged to fight terrorism and will not allow their country to be a base of terrorist groups. Perhaps they learned their lessons when U.S. forces toppled them in 2001 for harboring bin Laden, who used Afghanistan as its base to launch its attacks on U.S. soil on 11 September 2001. In addition, the U.S. military gained technological advancement in the past 20 years, vastly improving its capability to eliminate suspected terrorists remotely without stationing troops in any region. Intelligence reports also indicated that Afghanistan is home to an Islamic State group affiliate that launched a series of attacks targeting Shiite Muslims in the region. Although the Taliban condemned the attacks and fought the IS over territorial disputes, it remains to be seen if they will sustain suppressing the Islamic extremists. There's so much uncertainty as to the future of Afghanistan. One thing is clear, with the U.S. pullout from the region, desperate Afghans worry about what will happen to their country. Afraid, in panic, and worried, thousands of Afghans
Araneta City, home to the country's first indoor shopping mall, the world's original Thrilla, and the first ever Beanie Beanie pageant. Now a place for your first win, your first catch, your first home, your first big break, your first date, and even your first love. Araneta City, the city of first.
centers, pati sa mga parties may online pa at app. You can buy it with your fingers. Bill, phone, remittance, and more. Online shopping, you can buy it all. Di magpadala, you can buy it all. Anumang pera transaction, you can buy it all. Sabayan ang pagbabago ng mundo for all your pera transactions, all new Bayan.
You are still watching Tribune News on Q. And now for our showbiz news, get to know Miss Universe Philippines candidate Simone Nadine Bornilla in an exclusive interview with our showbiz correspondent, Kim Sancha.
You know, being a delegate to the Miss Universe Philippines, hindi ka ba kinakabahan? Kasi we all know na ang titindi ng mga kalaban mo, di ba? So what keeps you motivated to keep going?
You know, it's undeniable that I really do get nervous because I know that I'm competing against giants, and I think that that alone is a very intimidating fact. But what motivates me to push through that and put it aside is of course what I stand for, my advocacy, and it's to stand as an ally for the LGBTQ+ community. I think that every time I doubt myself, every time that I think that I don't deserve to be here, and that I don't have a chance, I don't have a fighting chance against the other competitors that I have, I always just look back and I remember who I'm doing this for, and I think that that's enough to motivate me to push myself forward.
Wow, that's very well said.
And that wraps up the stories this morning. Before we go, we would like to thank the SM Store, the Department of Tourism, Araneta Center, MG Motors, Hina Motors, Security Bank, and Overseas Community Affairs Council member Alan Lin of Republic of China for their continued support. Again, this is Venice Bautista, and you are watching Tribune News on Q. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay at home. Good morning!
Catch the latest news on our website, tribune.net.ph, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, TribuneNow. The Daily Tribune is one with the nation in facing the COVID-19 crisis, and in line with this, the Daily Tribune Digital Edition and Press Reader is now available for free online. You can also download the Daily Tribune app on Apple Store for iOS users and Google Play for Android users to get the latest and most comprehensive news online. Daily Tribune is also inviting everyone to join its community Viber Katribu to get updates on the freshest and hottest news and entertainment stories of the day. Tarcito emoticons are also available on our community Viber. Just click on the link in this video to join.